moving on to the second story. This story concerned SIA, the musical star SIA, did a trailer for her. Is it a video, Shannon, or a film?
She has made a film. I mean, she's made several videos,
right.
But she has made a film. And the thing about it is that this film was made many years ago, and I don't know why it never was released.
Right.
But they now are supposedly the film is going to be released very soon. Although I think that's all a little bit precarious,
right.
Based on what happened 2 weeks ago.
And the actor in the film is portraying someone on the autism spectrum, but the actual actor was not someone on the spectrum.
Yes.
So that's where the firestorm has.
Well, that's where it started. SIA released, I think it was 2 weeks ago today, she released the trailer for the film and said, "I'm so proud." And she has worked many times with Maddie Ziegler, the little actress. She's just amazed by her talent, and they just have this artistic relationship, and she loves to work with her. And she's a beautiful dancer, this young woman who's now 18, but was 15 when this movie was shot. And, I am someone, my master's degree is in the fine arts and in the creative arts. And I believe in, artistic license, creative license, that, it takes all kinds of things. So in any case, I hear that SIA has this relationship with Maddie Ziegler, and she loves to work with her. So she had written this short story, decided to take it to film. SIA has a very good friend that has a child who's on the spectrum. This was a storyline that was something that resonated with SIA. She really wanted to explore this. And in her artistic mind, 3 years ago, said, "I really want to do this with Maddie Ziegler." And if you see the trailer, there's reasons why she wanted it to be Maddie Ziegler. The storyline reminds me a little bit of Poe, Nancy. Do you remember Poe? Like 4 years ago, we were covering Poe, John Asher film.
Right.
And it's a boy who's on the autism spectrum, but we get to see him when he is in his mind.
Yes.
And see what it is like in his mind. And in that case, Poe was played by an actor who was not on the autism spectrum and did a brilliant job. But times have changed.
Right. Now, because of the fact that there are so many actors and performers that are on the spectrum that are available to be cast in these roles, I think that's the biggest change that's occurred.
Yes. And, I think 4 years ago, if somebody had said, we're going to do a movie about an individual who's on the autism spectrum, and in some scenes they need to be, on the spectrum and very impacted, and in some scenes they need to dance as if they are, have nothing that's holding them back. I think a lot of people would have been like, "Gosh, I don't know if that's possible. You're going to have to do a big casting call." It is 4 years later, and we know that there are people who can sing that song, dance that dance, act that act, and that they're on the autism spectrum. But this movie was made 3 years ago. So she released the trailer, and rightly so, a bunch of self-advocates immediately took to Twitter and said, "Gosh, I really wish that you had used an actress on the spectrum. Why didn't you use an actress on the spectrum? I'd like to know why you didn't use an actress on the spectrum. Please, will you consider using actors on the spectrum in the future?" And I was so proud of them for speaking up, speaking their truth, advocating for themselves, putting it out there, asking SIA questions. What I would have loved to have happened is for SIA to say, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm so, please understand, I made this movie 3 years ago, and 3 years ago, we were in a different place. I had this relationship with Maddie Ziegler. But by the way, I did cast a bunch of people on the autism spectrum, and I cast people with other abilities too. And I didn't just cast them as people who have other abilities. I cast one as a doctor, and I'm with you in this. Just please understand that I had this creative from 8 years ago with this actress, But in every project I do, I'm going to be with you. I'm your champion. Let's do this. Let's rock. That would have been great.
Right.
That's not what happened.
No.
That is not what happened. And I wanted to be Sia's PR person 2 weeks ago and say, Sia, let's sit down and talk about this. But she reacted defensively.
Right.
And she said things that broke my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I was angry. I can't imagine how people on the spectrum felt. But she reacted defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And there've been lots of people who've chimed in about it, but I think the best article that was done by Forbes, and Forbes talked to 4 young actors that are on the spectrum and said, what do you want to say about this? I encourage everybody to go and read it. And I love it, not just because 3 of the actors are people that we know quite well. I think that Alex Plank, who I adore, was like, he spoke so eloquently in this article. I was so proud of him. I don't think I've ever heard Alex speak as eloquently as he does in this Forbes article. Kobe Bird, who we just think the sun rises and sets, who just is such a pure human being, says amazing things. Lillian, who's been on our show from Everything's Gonna Be Okay, said amazing things. And then there was another actress who we haven't had the benefit of having her on the show. They all said amazing things. None of them were tearing Sia down, but they were saying this really hurts us. This hurts us as a community. One of the things that Sia said that I think was particularly hurtful, I mean, there were a couple of things. One actress wrote in and said, I wish you'd considered us. And I don't, did you audition people? And she didn't for that role because she had somebody already in mind, right? She could have just said that, but instead she said, well, maybe you're a bad actor. Not okay.
Yeah.
Not okay.
Not the way to respond.
No. And the other thing that she said that I'm aware of that was, I think, the core of the problem was that she said, listen, this role, basically, I'm paraphrasing, she said this role had big requirements, and I made the decision to not have it be somebody on the spectrum because I thought it would be cruel to have someone on the spectrum play this role. And I know that she was saying that thinking that that's a thing and that was said with love. And I think instead it was just like an arrow through everybody's heart.
Right.
That giving someone a job and giving them a chance and allowing them to be challenged in a job is not cruel. And saying I'm going to exclude you from something because I don't think you can do it, and I think even to allow you to try would be cruel, is the ultimate in what I understand to be ableist. And I want to say that I am not someone who, Alex Plank tells me on a regular basis, I'll say something and he'll go, well, Shannon, that was just ableist, what you said. And then I go, really? It was? Explain to me why. And then he explains to me and I go, okay, I guess I'm going to have to work on that. I didn't see it that way. And it's hard. And I'm humbled sometimes. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm coming from a perfect place and how dare Sia, but we have to move past this as a community. Now I'm talking too much, Nancy. What did you think of all this, kerfuffle?
Well, I just think it showed, unfortunately on Sia's part, it showed a real lack of awareness.
And maturity.
Yeah. And, her responses, her tweets just put fuel to the fire. And I think it's a great discussion, though, to have, and getting it out there. The result of this, even though it was very unpleasant, was that it did have all of these people on the spectrum that are available speak out. And, there's an awareness now. And I think it won't happen again in the future, hopefully.
Yeah. And I don't know what Sia is going to do at this point. I don't know whether the film is going to be released. But I want to encourage her. I'm happy to make this platform available. I'm just going to say that I wouldn't want to be the person interviewing her, but I'm sure that we have self-advocates who would be happy to interview her on Autism Live. And I'm happy to make this platform available. If Sia would like to come on, have an opportunity to talk to these individuals face to face, I feel very strongly that, Sia, you need to apologize for what you said and do something meaningful for what you said.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you hear that. I hope you hear people like Alex Blank saying, we're not telling you can only ever cast an individual who's on the spectrum to play someone on the spectrum, but please at least allow them in the room and the opportunity, and don't exclude them from the opportunity. That's what they're asking for. That's what they're all asking for.
Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.